To look to the future of democracy, I think we can find the solutions in the past, in ancient philosophy, and in particular, in one of the most ancient philosophical ideals in the Western cultural tradition, Carpe Diem, seize the day. Carpe Diem, seize the day, actually goes back to a poem written by the Roman lyric poet Horace in 23 BC. And the last couple of lines of the poem really sum up what it's all about. Even as we speak, envious time flies past. Seize the day and leave as little as possible for tomorrow. And in those couple of lines, he really summed up one of the great questions of the existential journey. How should we live in the face of the reality of our mortality? How do we live a life without regret? And it's extraordinary, I think, that that ideal, those two Latin words, still retain such extraordinary resonance in popular culture. The actress Judi Dench had Carpe Diem tattooed onto her wrist for her 81st birthday. You may have come across the phrase in Dead Poets Society, where Robin Williams, playing the inspiring English teacher Mr. Keating, tells the pupils, "We're food for worms, lads." Because each and every one of us in this room is going to stop breathing, grow cold, and die. Carpe diem. Seize the day, boys. Make your lives extraordinary. And I think that the wisdom of Horace's ideal is absolutely urgent today, partly because it's an antidote to this, the age of distraction. We're checking our phones on average 110 times a day. We're caught in a state of continuous partial attention. We become spectators of life on the screen rather than living it directly itself. Carpe Diem can help us get beyond the screen and our eye gadgets, but it is also a solution to the crisis of democracy. And to understand why that is, you need to understand a bit more about the meaning of Carpe Diem itself. Over time, 5 different interpretations of seizing the day have emerged. 5 different ways that we've thought about grasping the most of existence in the face of the shortness of life. And I call them opportunity, spontaneity, presence, hedonism, and politics. And to understand how Carpe Diem, this ancient Horatian ideal, can feed into democratic renewal, we need to understand all 5 of these and understand how Carpe Diem can take us from the personal to the political, and understand also that each of these have been faced by cultural hijackers. So the first way of thinking about seizing the day is the idea of an opportunity, taking a window of opportunity that may be lost and disappear forever. The problem, though, is that the old ideal of seizing opportunities has been hijacked by consumer culture. Just do it has essentially come to mean just buy it. The second way of thinking about Carpe Diem is as spontaneity, throwing plans and routines to the wind and becoming more experimental in the way we live. One of the challenges, though, is today that our spontaneous selves has been hijacked by our culture of hyper-scheduled living and time management. Just do it has really become just plan it. We're so busy filling up our electronic calendars that we've got no time left for spontaneous action. A third kind of seizing the day is Carpe Diem as presence, the idea of living in the here and now, being in the moment. The problem, though, is that mindfulness has become so dominant in the last 2 decades that it is starting to hijack the Carpe Diem ideal. Just do it has become just breathe. Go back a century and ask someone what seize the day meant to them. They would never have said it's about being in the present moment. They would have said it's about seizing opportunities, most likely. Ask people today, around 1 in 5 people associate Carpe Diem with being in the here and now. That's a big shift, and that's a big hijacking. A fourth form of seizing the day, hedonism. Now, of course, hedonism has quite a bad reputation today. We associate it with binge drinking and train spotting style heroin overdoses. But in the Carpe Diem tradition, it's about getting back in touch with the world, touching it, tasting it, feeling it. This hedonistic ideal of Carpe Diem has been hijacked by 24/7 digital entertainment. Just do it has really become just watch it. But there is a fifth form of seizing the day, which is politics, movements based on mass mobilization, which harness the power of the 4 different ways of seizing the day I've been talking about, opportunity, presence, spontaneity, and hedonism, and raises them from the individual to the collective level in order to achieve political change. And throughout history, we have seen these Carpe Diem-inspired movements shift the social and political landscape. The demonstrations that helped bring down the wall, the Berlin Wall in 1989, were full of seizing opportunities on a mass scale, but they were also about spontaneous mobilization, which brought people into the present moment, and they were also full of hedonistic revelry alongside very serious political intent. Other movements you can think of, the gay rights movement that emerged in San Francisco in the 1970s, the anti-capitalist movement in this country, in Europe and other places in the early noughties. They've all been filled with the spirit of Carpe Diem. So if we stand back and look at the big picture, I've put it all together in what I call the Carpamus Diem mandala. In the middle are the twin existential drives which are behind Carpe Diem behavior, our desire for freedom, for agency, for autonomy, and the reality of death. And in the middle are the barriers to seizing the political day, from the cultural hijackers to failing engagement with the state, being an outsider against the system, and mobilizing without organizing. But I deeply believe that Carpe Diem politics can offer us a new era of democratic renewal. It can help create a politics which is full of energy and vitality and true to the grand vision that goes back to Horace. And that's why I believe that in the 21st century, we need a new ambition, an ambition which involves Carpe Diem politics, which is about shifting from Carpe Diem to Carpamus Diem, to seizing the day together, because that is what real democracy looks like.